Hi, and welcome to the second in my series of what I call the Classic Blues or Old School Blues Lick of the Month. And this is a new series of lessons that I'm starting to try to give you some quick lessons if you just want to learn some new licks and ideas and don't want to go through all the details of the styles of some of these guys that I'm doing. You can, learn one or two really cool things that you can work into your playing pretty quick. For the second lick of the month, we're going to take a look at a song, some licks from a tune called Hard-Hearted Woman by Big Walter Horton. It was recorded in the 1950s, early 1950s, and I can't remember the guitar player. It's a guy I've never heard of before. I will put it on the description. I knew it and I just spaced out, but he plays some incredible licks behind the harmonica playing and the singing of Big Walter Horton. And the reason I really like this song, and I've stolen a lot of ideas from this, is because when you're playing behind a harmonica player, it's easy to get stuck playing the same thing over and over again, ninth chords or bass runs or a combination of both. But there's some other ways you can support the harmonica player. And one way that I hear in this song, at least, is by using a lot of the licks, horn part licks. They're licks that really sound like what the horns might be playing if you had a horn section. And I'm going to show you a couple examples of these from this tune called Hard-Hearted Woman. And the guitar player does a lot of really cool stuff, but I'm going to show you the two licks that I like the most, and then I'll show you how you can take those licks and then be creative and come up with your own ideas in the same vein. The tune is in the key of A, so we're going to learn these licks in the key of A. The first one, I'll play it all the way through. He plays behind one of the harmonica solos on the tune, and that's the whole idea here, is supporting the harmonica player. During the vocal verses, he does these chord vamps. Typical, but he doesn't really let the chords ring too much. It's very choppy. And that's really neat. And he's using an A6, ninth chord. And he also throws in some other stuff. I'll probably later come back to this song and teach the whole thing. But for now, let's just learn a couple horn licks. Here's the first one. Here is the first of these two horn part licks that I'm going to show you. In the key of A. First one goes like this. Up in a couple places, but we'll get the idea. So this, it's like a horn part, and it's complementing what the harmonica player's doing. Starting out, I'm going to do a simple A double stop. I've got my first finger on the second fret of the fifth string, second finger on the sixth fret of the third string, and I'm going to slide it into it from below, from the third or fourth and fifth frets. Twice, 1, 2. That's the first part. Then I'm going to go from the fifth fret of the second string to the seventh fret. And you'd listen to it carefully, and he might be doing a double stop. Like that, picking both the first and second strings. So something like this. So I've got my first finger barring the first and second strings at the fifth fret. Or he could be doing just picking the second string. You can do it either way. So the next part, this is a typical blues, rhythm and blues double stop. I'm going to use my first finger to anchor the whole thing, keeping it on the first and second strings at the fifth fret. And my pinky is on the eighth fret of the first string. And my ring finger, and then my ring finger is on the seventh fret of the second string. So that whole lick so far. And then he does this little vamp thing where he's going again, first finger barring the first and second strings, and the ring fingers coming on and off on the seventh fret while picking both the first and second strings. So that whole lick. And then when he goes to the 4, he's just going to make this the 4 chord, which is a D9, but I think he's just sliding one finger, getting the second and third strings, maybe the fourth string at the fifth fret, and the rest of the lick is the same. Whoops. And then back to the original. And then when he goes over the 5, he's just going back and forth between the 5th fret of the 1st and 2nd strings and that double stop. Then he wraps it up doing this, going from the 5th fret of the 1st and 2nd strings to the 7th fret, 1st and 2nd strings, a double stop. It's like this. So it's double stop, double stop, double stop, and then coming down on the 1 string, which is still a double stop, but he's just picking mostly the 7th fret of the 2nd string. The guitar is heavily distorted, and in some places it's hard to hear exactly what he's doing, but you could mix this up, do it a lot of different ways. That's how I do it. So the whole lick, one more time. Then he wraps it up just from the double stop at the 5th fret and back to that, which is basically your A chord. So during the solo verse, one of the solo verses, that's what he's playing behind the harmonica. So instead of just playing chords, something like that, he's playing these really cool double stop horn licks, which is really neat. Okay, next one. This is another variation really on that same idea, which he does a little bit later in the tune. This time he's going to walk into it. Let me play the variation all the way through. Actually quite a bit different. And then into the next verse. So he's leading into it by walking into the chord, which is an A major, F-shaped A chord. And it sounds like he's playing the whole chord from the 4th string, which is at the 7th fret of the 4th string. It's very full. He could just be playing the top 3 strings like that with 2 fingers, but to me it sounds very full. I like that better. Very similar to what we did before. So it's like this. That double stop, and open, and the double stop at the 7th fret, and then coming down on the 7th fret of the 2nd string, and winding up on that double stop at the 5th fret. So like this, and it's really like that. So, double stop, double stop. Use the tab and see exactly what I'm doing there. Then when he goes to the 4, same idea as before. Just using the 1 finger, abbreviated version of the D9. Getting mostly the 2nd and 3rd strings. Back to the 1. Then for the 5, he's going to do into the E9, same thing from the 6th fret to the 7th fret, which is my E9, back to the 1, and that sounds to me, I thought it might be a chord there, but it sounds to me like he's just doing this double stop like that, and then into the verse. So what you've got there are 2 really neat ideas of how you can play some horn-like fills during a harmonica solo, and backing up the harmonica player. If you don't have a horn section, you can become the horn section instead of playing there's nothing wrong with the standard chords and things to back up a harmonica player, but this just gives you a lot of variety in your sound. Now, I've taken this and just recently recorded a tune very similar to Hard Hearted Woman, and that tune I use some of my own variations on that lick, and one of them I'll show you right here. The other one you got to buy the CD to hear it. But it goes like this. This is my version. Pretty close to what it is. So what I'm doing is same thing. I'm using a lot of the same lick twice with that double stop. Then I'm doing this hammer-on pull-up, which I got from listening to Willie Johnson, who played with Howlin' Wolf. Then the 5th fret of the 1st string. I'm using this double stop, which is a typical double stop, blues double stop, flattening out the 2nd and 3rd strings of the 7th fret. Got my 1st finger on the 5th fret of the 2nd and 3rd strings, hammering on my 2nd finger to the 2nd, 6th fret of the 3rd string, while also picking the 2nd string. So, and then winding up on the root, which is 7th fret of the 4th string, or A. So that whole lick. Then I do the same thing when I go to the 4. This time I'm just going the double stops from the 7th to the 5th, back to the 5th fret, or the 7th fret of the 4th string. So over the 4, whoops, like that, and then back to the 1. Then when I get to the 5, I'm just doing a little chord thing where I'm sliding through the E 9th chord, going to the F sharp 9th, and then I can do a lot of different stuff. Back into the vocal verse or whatever I'm doing. So those are some ideas too, which I picked from the song Hard-Hearted Woman by Walter Horton. One that I created myself. I think I created it myself, maybe subconsciously. I stole it from some other song. But that's how it works. You hear stuff and then you try to make it your own. I really struggle with that. A lot of times I just want to play note for note what I hear on the recordings because I love it so much. But if you really want to, enjoy the guitar, be creative, come up with your own stuff. So hopefully those licks will help you. If you have any questions, comments, let me know. And above all, make sure you listen to the tune Hard-Hearted Woman by Big Walter Horton, the original version from back in the 50s. He re-recorded that a couple times, and the version I'm referring to is the one from the 50s. That is the classic licks for February 2015. I will be back in March with another classic lick that you can use, hopefully.